Perfect. The future of IT support, a guide to leveraging AI for success. And without any further ado, I'd love to bring to stage our presenters today to speak to this amazing topic. We have Chris Savio, Senior Director of Product Marketing, and Kim Zupancic, Senior Product Marketing Manager. Hey, how are you guys?
Hey Danny, how's it going? Excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I will pass the baton over to you guys and let me know if you need anything, and I'll be back for a Q&A.
Awesome. Well, very excited to be here with a very important topic. I think a hot topic has been for probably the past year and a half. I feel like anytime we do webinars on AI or security, think like highly attended, obviously very top of mind for people. So excited to bring some interesting points today to the conversation, talk about some practical applications and so forth. So, quick high level of the agenda of what we're going to kind of discuss and tackle today. So, we did field a study among a few hundred IT professionals. To kind of understand where are you all at with AI today, right? What are your perceptions of it? What's your adoption of it? What do you see as potentially the impact of something like this? What are barriers to it, right? So we're going to go through those, kind of some background on the survey and some of those results. And then we're going to actually dive into some AI that we have in one of our products of LogMeIn Resolve. So Kim will be walking us through some of these great applications that we have. We also have a really exciting demo that we want to show you, a recorded demo, because we're not going to attempt to demo gods. I don't like doing that on webinars. So we'll show you that as well as kind of a short little 2 minute video of a new feature that we just recently rolled out. And of course, questions. Put them in along the way in the session. We can hold some of them to the end. Some of them I'll chime in and react to live if I think they make sense to go into the talk track. So certainly do not save them for the end, as Danny said. So Kim, you ready to roll?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So I know sometimes there's a little lag in these things, so I'll try and hopefully the screen catches up with some of my speedy voiceover. But in general, right, why are we talking about AI, right? Why does it matter when it comes to IT management and support? So we asked, surveyed a lot of the IT professionals that I mentioned to kind of understand it. Really, what we've heard in standard feedback, what we saw in this survey, and what you see everywhere is that it has the ability to transform how teams are operating, right? Whether it's just IT, whether it's other business units in your company, just in general, it does transform how companies are operating. It's helping people be more efficient in their day to day. I know that from a marketing perspective, we've been kind of leaning into and understanding how we can leverage AI to kind of make our team, our mighty team of 4 product marketers into a team of feel like 6, 7, or 8, right? With a kind of superpower in what we can do. Works very similar for IT. And the other side of it too is reducing costs. And we know that resources and costs are something that are in high demand today, right? Dollars, budgets, and things like that. And so AI has that ability, if used the right way, invested properly, to do that, right? So really transforming how it was. And this was echoed in that survey, as I mentioned. So let's talk briefly about the survey. Who did we talk to? So we got some insights from over 300 IT professionals, director level and above, both from an internal IT standpoint as well as managed service providers, as you kind of see the breakdown there. And really, kind of ran the gamut in company sizes, whether but from the MSP side or your kind of internal IT professionals, from small business to kind of larger organizations, following kind of a natural curve of where you see the number of organizations out there today. And so what you'll see in some of the results as we go through, some of them we do break out and call out specifics between IT and MSPs where there are specific differences. Other stats are combined together where there was some consistency across them. We're not going to go into all the results. So there is a larger ebook that we will share after this webinar with everyone that dives into things that we covered here, as well as a number of other really interesting findings that are even outside just AI, just state of the business as well, some automation insights and so forth. So please, I encourage you to review that ebook, share it with others as well. Okay, so before we jump into it, I would just like to know who we're kind of talking to, right? From the standpoint of where are you with your AI adoption? Have you adopted it today? In your operation, so we're going to push this poll up. You're going to see extensively, maybe to some extent, not yet, but you are planning to, or no, you're maybe not considering it, and maybe for those that are saying no, not considering it, maybe Kim will change some of their minds by the end of this when they kind of see what AI has to offer. So. Got a lot of responses coming in really quickly. Really great to see. So maybe we'll give 10 more seconds here. Maybe less than that. 5. All right. I think we can close it down good amount and push those out to everyone. All right. And is that being pushed out? I'm not really sure. I can't really tell in this setup. Maybe, maybe not.
It looks like we got the majority of our results in the
Okay, it
not
is
yet
being pushed.
planning to, which is interesting when we compare to how Chris, you mentioned we use it, internally within our
Yeah.
team. So it's always interesting to compare and contrast with others.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great to see kind of that breakdown. And for that, few percent there, as you said, not considering it yet. Maybe now seeing a little bit of what your peers are doing, successes they're having might change some of your mind. So that breakdown actually not too dissimilar in those results of what we've kind of seen in market today, right? How far are we with AI? So what we saw in the survey, 50% of respondents said they are familiar with it, right? In the sense of how it's going to work, how it's adopted, what it could do for their businesses. So I think there's still some learning curve there. And 26% have adopted it. This is again across very similar, whether it's IT or MSPs. It's about 1 in 4, which again, not surprising yet. I think there is some caution or understanding, is it right for me? Do I have resources available to do it? And we'll dive into a little bit more than that. Um, so there is that interest, early stages, but again, I think a lot of interest and excitement about what it has to offer, right? And I think this next slide really kind of sums it up, right? In the standpoint of it's cautious optimism, right? It really is, the belief that there's going to have this practical impact, this positive impact. It can change your business. It can transform maybe how small teams, medium teams, large teams, resource constrained or not, are working. Um, but there are some concerns, right? Whether that be primarily from a security side of the house, right? What's going on with my data? Is there vulnerabilities in it? Maybe there's this black box idea. I think a lot of people that maybe haven't fully dug into how AI can work today, what it can do. So I think there really is, some due diligence that needs to be done. I think providers, whether it's, from the LogMeIn side, other providers you work with, making sure that we're enabling and maybe assuaging some of those concerns, right? Whether documentation, some transparency level, and helping you understand, that maybe this is the right way to adopt it and learn in your organization.
And Chris, I know that on this team we're probably early adopters, but do you feel like in your opinion, these common concerns that we're seeing from the survey, are they justified, or how can organizations address them while still feeling like they're moving forward with AI initiatives?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that these concerns are 100% justified, right? I mean, that I think any type of new technology that is ingesting a lot of data and utilizing that and pushing things back out, whether it's guidance, insights, specific actions from them, 100%, you want to know what goes into the box, how's it being used, how's it being exposed, and specifically, even in the IT space where security is paramount. I feel like every every week, unfortunately, you're hearing about other threats or breaches or things like that. You know, the stewards of security in the IT space do not want to potentially add something else to their tool belt that can further expose them, right? So I think what's really important is that you know something like that with a responsible organization, a trusted organization. Not saying it's should be LogMeIn, though we should be. But that being said, are addressing these concerns. We could touch on a little bit more of that later. But yeah, 100% valid, and I think that due diligence should be there, and maybe there's like a crawl, walk, run approach, right, to how you're utilizing it with smaller kind of adoptions or things like that, or along the way to be able to do it. So, and thinking of that, right, how can it be adopted maybe in those ways? So another question we asked in the survey is, so for those that have adopted it, right, where is it making that difference? Where is it going to have that impact with organizations, right? And so security was potentially concerned for it, but the overwhelming, the larger group said that security threat detection is actually one of the places where it can have some of the greatest impact, right? Where it can see the most difference for an organization, right? Because you basically have something that's always on and always listening and always kind of analyzing your ecosystem to kind of understand, hey, is there something that's vulnerable in my organization, right? Is there a device that all of a sudden, kind of went out of whack from something else? Can it point me somewhere where maybe there's certain patches or updates that need to be rolled out, or things like that, right? Knowledge management is another space that is seeing a lot of adoption because it is a very manual process on knowledge management. I think, Kim, we're going to touch on a little bit of practical application of knowledge management later. But that is a great place that we've seen, I think knowledge hygiene is probably a space where IT professionals dislike most. You like solving problems, fixing things, not necessarily documenting all of that. There's some that do, but a lot of people probably don't. And if you do, hey, kudos to you. You're fighting the great fight. But I think AI can really have a difference there in removing a lot of that manual, repetitive work that maybe you don't have time for or don't want to do. Self-service support. I was actually surprised to see this as kind of the third ranked thing on the list of having difference because I do know organizations are concerned about exposing some technology to users and things like that because maybe they don't have as much control over it and maybe it can cause more harm than good. But there's been a lot of improvements there as well. So excited to see that as well. Um, so that's where, they're thinking we're making a difference, but what about actual results? The advantages of the of AI and where we're actually seeing some of these results. Again, we mentioned the security threat detection. So the last one was where people think there's going to be a difference. Here's the actual results and where people have deployed it, right? So for those 26%, we kind of asked them, where have you actually deployed this and where have you seen a positive impact, right? So there's the perception on the previous slide, and this one's actually where we're seeing that positive impact. So IT asset management, security threat detection, which mirrors what we saw on the last slide, predictive maintenance, and that knowledge management. So two of those four were kind of the top list. And the IT asset management is actually really interesting to see, right, from an AI side, and probably managing devices that are coming in, helping to organize things, helping to highlight different maybe changes in devices, and kind of getting a full 360. And the predictive maintenance, moving that from reactive to proactive support, huge for IT organizations, right? So different functionality, something that we're working on in our Resolve product is that ability to actually go out, and let hey, point you in the right direction, what's needed to go on, where there are opportunities in your ecosystem, right? A step further than kind of just traditional alerting because it's much more nimble and agile along the way. So this is, for those that are kind of more on the fence, this is where people that have adopted are seeing these positive impacts already, right? So if you're trying to think for yourself, hey, maybe there's some place I can look at, right? Maybe there's an opportunity for me. These could be the places for you to start to think about it, right? Because this is where real world, your peers are seeing, results that are really kind of driving home the value of the technology, right? And hot on the heels of that, you think about from the other end of it, what about the future of this, right? So this is where we are today. We had the 26% of people. People think it's going to make a difference. They're seeing areas where it's going to make a difference. But what about moving forward, right? Is it going to grow? Are people kind of staying the same? And so what we've seen was out of that 75-ish percent that have not yet adopted, they actually plan to within the next 2 years. Again, very similar to what we saw in the poll that we just asked at the start of this. So kind of that, hey, starting to investigate, starting to plan, right? So they know that the value is there. Sometimes it's having time to get around to it, which I know is an all too real problem for IT professionals. There's just not enough hours in the day to tackle your day-to-day and maybe these larger initiatives. 50% are of those that are actually using it today are planning to increase their investment in it, right? So they've seen those successes with positive, like, hey, we're going to put more into this. We're going to find some more use cases. We're going to get some more adoption, maybe expand what we're doing. And in general, though, 64% saying that it's going to actually change, their full operations, right? So that's where we see with the future. So I think that momentum that we've been seeing is really just getting faster and faster as providers, such as ourselves, are finding new and unique ways to leverage AI and provide it to our customers. And I think there's a comfort level that we're getting, for organizations as well.
Yeah, and for those 64 that are just planning to, adopt AI, they're starting to explore it, where do you think they should focus their efforts to see maybe the biggest or the fastest impact? Of course, every business being, different, but in general terms.
Yeah, I think, Kim, I think that one of the ways that to your point, different strokes for every type of organization, right? And I think a lot of it is probably this might be skirting kind of a direct answer for it, but some of it has to do with your risk tolerance and what you want to get involved in, right? There's simple things like helping you create scripts for your business, right? That's one thing. Low risk. I want to set up some automation. I don't have time to create PowerShell scripts or things like that. Can I lean on a tool to do it for me? Whether you're using built-in tools that a lot of management tools, whether it's Resolve or other ones have in them, uh, that's one way to potentially do it. Very low risk, gets yourself comfortable, and also, can move you to a path towards automation. For those, I think that really want to start to push boundaries a little bit, I think looking for ways to use AI to actually analyze what's going on in their ecosystem, right? To understand, hey, highlighting where is there, opportunity for make improvements, where is there the ability for me to focus my day, leading into tools that way to actually provide guidance on how to do things where you're still solving it yourself, not necessarily using the AI or tool to solve it, but right, it's ingesting that data and doing it right. So having that comfort level with knowing what's going on with your data, how's it looking at your devices, and so forth. I think that is probably a much better way, and that you can really still have guardrails and controls over, because it's serving up to you more insights. I think that's one of the ways that a lot of people don't think about generative AI today or the advances. They think about, your traditional consumer uses with your, chat GPTs or Geminis or any of those things, which is more conversational. I think a lot of the power from AI and where the best benefits are going to be is in the analysis of it, right? Your big data, right? You have 3, 4, 500 endpoints in your ecosystem. You want to know everything that's going on with them at any point. Sure, you could set up dozens of different alerts or thresholds or things like that. But why not just have the AI point out those things that are important or ask them questions for it to pull it up for you? So that's where I think really, if you want to actually get in there and you have a comfort level with the privacy of your data, where you should start to kind of push on that end of it. All right, okay, great news along the way, right? A lot of good adoption, a lot of insights, a lot of successes, but still, it's only at that quarter of people that have adopted, right? Why aren't organizations potentially adopting yet, right? What's holding people back? What's holding business back? So the first one is not surprisingly a cost and ROI. I think that there still isn't enough data that's being provided to understand, hey, I'm investing more dollars into this solution for this technology, right? From the vendor side, AI runs and like every time things are done and calls are done, there's an investment for our end, and unfortunately, sometimes the businesses, the customers have to pay for some of those as well. So you have to know, what is that ROI, what's that investment, right? So as you're building that up, figuring out, right, how I would recommend for that piece of it is, doing a POC or something along the way of understanding, okay, here's small ticket time or average time spent in a day doing whatever. What are you getting back? You know what your fully loaded cost is for an agent. And so if you're saving 2 or 3 or 4 hours a week for that person, right, there are some dollars and cents to that. The only way to really know that, though, because mileage will vary on a lot of these tools, is to go in and do some type of POC, and look at it that way to really make sure it works for your organization. Integration complexity, holding people back, which is actually surprising to see. And I think, Kim, one of the things that's interesting on this one is that, um, it, I think this answer shows a little bit less of a educated state of the state of AI, right? And that's on companies like ourselves or others to make sure that individuals know that there really isn't much complexity to integrating this ecosystem, right? Tools are embedding these in their technology today, which we'll show you in a little bit. And so this point, in my view, isn't something that should be holding companies back, right? With the technology today, yeah, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right, when you had those Watsons and things like that that took large integrations to get done and months of work, those days are long gone. The AI today is very much turnkey, set and forget it. So really, this integration complexity is a shame on us from kind of the industry side for not doing maybe a better job educating IT professionals to know that, hey, you don't need a lot of investments. It's kind of getting in there. And the last one, lack of skilled personnel. And yeah, this is definitely something that I think, there's no hardly any time in the day to solve what's going on. How are people getting skilled up? And again, this should come back to the simplicity of the technology, right? Being able to, use it like any other tool. Maybe it varies if you really want to know how it's working. But again, you have to kind of level up some of your team on that, and understandable, right? You don't want to go into something blind. and go back to that kind of comfort with it. So yeah, really not surprising. For the two bookends of this, that middle one was very surprising when I saw those results kind of come through. Um, and so we have a few more data points, but want to pause for a little more engagement with the group. And I think, Kim, we're going to pull up another survey here and push out, right? So to understand, what is your level of security concern with AI tools, right? We talked about this a little bit before at the top of it. Where are you at, right? Low, medium, high? Like where's your concern with security? Where do you think it's going to land, Kim? If you're not, unless you're cheating and looking already at the results coming through.
I have to say I'm cheating, so it's going to be hard not to be biased. But I think probably, good, better, best. I'd probably say the middle, medium is probably where the majority will land.
Okay, we'll give 2 more seconds here. Got most of you coming in. All right, I think we can probably push that out. All right, so yeah, it looks like 2 out of 3 are saying kind of medium, with a third kind of saying high, which is again not terribly surprising, I guess, because I think as we'll kind of go on, we'll show you a little bit of what your peers are saying. So love those results and insights, and I think it's again the concerns like we said earlier, Kim. I think it's very justified with some of these concerns that are out there, with privacy vulnerabilities and so forth, right? And so concerns that we've seen from, this is again from your peers, and we kind of split these out a little because I did see some differences, and maybe the risk tolerance of MSPs versus internal IT teams. Again, data privacy though was number one across both, which is yeah, really important. I think if you are working with, there are unfortunately a lot of smaller startups and organizations that are doing AI right now, and they might not be as transparent in how your data is getting used, right? So that one being top front and center, I think with anything AI should be top of mind. I'm glad to see that it ranks high on there, right? Because you should be asking those questions. Any vendor you're working with, understand the architecture, understanding how their large language models or LLMs are ingesting your data, using your data. Is it going back to third parties they're using? Is it getting used with other organizations and so forth? Control over decision making. Yeah, this is another point, right? Are you just going to let this thing loose? And kind of set it on its way. And that's why I said a lot of this kind of check with me AI is probably that kind of good bridge to get in. I think the ability to use it to glean insights and guide you in your day is a great application of it, to just kind of help optimize what you're doing. I would 100% agree. Again, if I'm using AI myself from a marketing side to help me draft copy for something or create blogs or stuff like that, I don't just put something in and then say, hey, ship it on its way, right? You spend some time there and it gets you kind of part of the way. Um, for IT, for example, right? Maybe it guides you into, hey, there's some health issues with these devices. Maybe go check on it. Maybe here's recommended steps for it. But maybe you don't want to go that extra step of saying, hey, AI, go solve that for me myself. And vulnerability to hacking, I think that there is a risk there, but I would say it's no different than any other cyber threat with any vendor you're using. So that 60%, 50% that's on there, I would probably assume that's a consistent concern just with the technology you're using in general. So I did see a question that came in earlier that I wanted to get to, not hold to the end. That was around the integration complexity 2 slides ago. Grant, you sent in a good question there around, does the integration complexity massively increase when the organization has to adhere to HIPAA? I would probably still say no. I guess it depends what you're trying to integrate it with. To me, that would more come down to a data privacy side of it. Again, if you're using standalone AI tools that you need to put into the rest of your ecosystem, potentially. But if it is a tool that has it itself, for me, it's not necessarily integration. I think it's how the data is being used and stored, which would be similar to other HIPAA requirements, right? To obfuscate things, not pass certain information along. So that's where my thinking is. Potentially again, respondents might be thinking of it a little differently, or they have to build out bespoke integrations or customize how AI is being used. So great question though. Appreciate that one coming through. Okay. Last thing before we pivot into, again, I know we have some MSPs that are kind of joining us today, and we did kind of carve out a little. So I wanted to have one call out for it because I think there's an interesting, MSPs I see kind of as a bellwether for a lot of technology and a lot of approaches for individuals, right? And so wanted to kind of call out a few spotlights. Again, the report has this broken out from your IT and MSPs and actually deep dive on a few expectations with MSPs as well. Um, but right, so MSPs again, positive belief, right? 67% improve it, 56% to reduce costs, which we know as you're scaling as an organization for an MSP, that's really huge. Being able to save costs as well as potentially take on more work. Those two things usually do not align with one another, but I think with AI it really can. And then from the other one there, right, expecting with 45% of customers expecting MSPs to leverage AI in their support. So this I think is really telling, right? That nearly half of organizations, so we asked customers if they use an MSP, half of them said, nearly half, said that they expect their MSP to start using it, right? To be using it with them to optimize, to be smarter, to work smarter. Which is huge, right? You got to understand what are your customers doing, right? And if only a quarter of you are doing it today, but half your customers looking for it, there's kind of a gap there, right, between the two. So, you know, more and more are starting to plan to update it. I think somewhere we said in the report, maybe 38% or so are planning to implement it from the MSP side, but I still don't think that's enough to kind of cover where the expectations are living, right?
Yeah, and to that point around expectations, with almost half of customers expecting their MSP providers to leverage AI in some form of support capacity. Of course, we know that there are still some challenges when implementing any new type of technology like AI. So, in your opinion, how can MSPs really navigate these challenges to make sure that, to your point, they're bridging the gap and they're ensuring that they're successful in adopting AI while still, meeting their customer demands?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think that the key challenge is going to be how it's exposed to the customers. There's the expectation, the challenge around, do I have other resources or teams leveled up? I think part of it is going to be finding that specific use case that's both going to drive customer happiness, right? Maybe it's the ability to solve things without needing to connect into the devices, or maybe the ability to solve problems after hours for individuals, or the ability to make them more secure, right? That security threat detection. So as a service provider, know your customers best, right? And so I think understanding, hey, if you work in a specific industry that maybe, going back to the question on HIPAA or compliance oriented, maybe focusing on that security side adds a lot of value for your customers, and maybe alleviate some strain for yourselves, right? And so I think, it's probably no different from a lot of what we kind of just talked about with understanding crawl, walk, run, find that right niche area, making sure you're understanding that your customers' data is not being utilized in something else, right? That data privacy, look at how data is being used. Can kind of get you there and then align with exactly what your customers need as well. Um, so again, this is just a preview of some of the results from our survey. Didn't want to go all into them again. We have a close to, I think it's 19-page ebook that has dozens of questions, more details on some of the adoption areas and impacts on those. So encourage everyone when we send that over as a follow up to read it, and let us know what you think about it. But with that, I want to actually turn it over, and we want to actually give some practical applications, right, of AI and show you that we are practicing what we preach here at LogMeIn to help you see maybe, hey, there's some different ways that you can adopt it with something in Resolve or other products as well. So Kim, I'll let you drive through maybe this next section.
Of course. So we're going to deep dive into some more tangible examples, like Chris mentioned, of AI, specifically with LogMeIn Resolve. But before we do that, I also want to highlight how we bring this, vision of practical AI to life to really help our customers solve everyday IT challenges. And so with Resolve, our focus is really on building these intuitive tools that work together to deliver these real measurable results that, again, aren't conceptual, but really create tangible results. And we like to frame this combination with the brains and the bronze. So let me just walk you through quickly this concept. So we look at it as, on the one side, the brains, which is AI powered insights to understand what's happening in your IT environment. So you can think of it as the intelligence layer that's really designed to gather, analyze, and convert data into these actionable insights that you can, actually use. And I have an example here that I won't get into, but is the command center, which I'll get to in just a bit. And on the right side is the bronze. So this is where the actual action happens. So think about it in terms of automating processes, resolving issues, and driving those results that you really want to see. So this is what we call intelligent problem resolution. And we have a great example lined up with the virtual technician that I'll get into on the next slide.
Yeah, I think that's huge as we come to the next slide. That idea of practical AI. I think there's way too many tools out there that are just doing AI for AI's sake. There's a lot that are not, but our product team definitely thinks about here's a problem we're hearing from our customers. Now let's figure out, can AI help solve that problem, right? I think this is one great example.
Exactly. So on this slide, I have the virtual technician feature outlined. So this is one of our key tools that we have with LogMeIn Resolve that, again, is really designed to transform how teams manage everyday challenges, especially when it comes to remote support. We did see that that was an area of interest also with our AI survey. And I think with reason, when we look at some of the common challenges that we hear, very frequently from many IT teams, we know that agents across the board feel like they're spending way too much time on routine tasks, repetitive tasks, and troubleshooting. And these are, manual processes that, waste time, but can also introduce inconsistencies in the quality and the service as well. Of course, again, agents have to, in their day-to-day, juggle multiple things at once. So we can definitely see how these processes not being standardized are incredibly error-prone. And we also know that repetitive work keeps teams, stuck in this, reactive cycle, not necessarily the proactive cycle that they really want to be in, which makes it much harder to focus on these more strategic, higher value priorities. And this is really where the virtual technician shines. Again, it's a solution that is designed to handle exactly these kinds of tasks, but in a more rapid, reliable, and automatic fashion. And so, for example, during remote support sessions, teams can leverage the virtual technician to execute these standardized workflows. So you'll have a demo prepared that we'll launch in just a bit, but it outlines a step-by-step plan to resolve these issues, but it will let the agent approve it and then carry out the task automatically. So this aspect of transparency here is definitely super important. And the results that we can expect, of course, is better productivity, quicker resolutions, and reduced downtime for end users as well, just to name a few benefits. And I think what's truly powerful and what you'll see in the demo is that this can all be accomplished without requiring deep expertise. So the virtual technician can really be used by anyone, less experienced agents, more experienced agents. And so it can really level up the team and make sure that everyone on the team is operating like a more seasoned IT professional. And again, to the concept of doing more with the same number of resources, you'll be able to also achieve more when you get the hang of the tool with the same number of people, which I think is a key benefit here. A last point that I want to make on the slide is the component of risk or complexity. So you'll notice here that I mark that as medium, but this is not because the tool is technically, complex, but there is still an aspect of trust. Again, any new tool, there's always some onboarding or ramp up, and teams do need to build that trust in AI-driven systems, especially ones that are designed to execute workflows on their behalf, even if there are checks and balances in place. So going back to the survey results and the aspect of transparency and explainability being key sort of obstacles to AI adoption, what you'll see is that with the virtual technician, one of the key benefits is that it's highly transparent. So I think with that, I'll hand it over to you, Chris, so that we can really see this in action and show the demo. And you'll see that it's extremely transparent and keeps teams in full control throughout the process.
Awesome. Yeah, great explanation. But I think, like you said, seeing is believing of this. So, Danny, I think we can roll the demo.
What we see here is the Resolve Help Desk with a list of tickets that the agent has open. While reviewing a ticket from an employee about the My Apps portal, the agent notices that the Resolve AI has associated the ticket with a device. The agent connects to this device remotely and performs a series of actions to clear the browser cache. Resolve AI will work behind the scenes and use this session information to generate notes. Once the agent successfully ends the session, in the session wrap-up screen, they have the option to generate an article based on the session. This is a massive time saver and helps them create and maintain knowledge base articles very easily. The agent reviews the articles and saves it for future use. Now, the agent moves to their next ticket. While reviewing this ticket, they notice that the Resolve AI has detected and linked several related tickets. In these tickets, all users report issues logging into Office 365 using different browsers. Resolve AI also links to the related knowledge base article it has found based on the issue description in the ticket. This knowledge article has a virtual technician execution plan that was automatically generated from the session that we just saw a few seconds ago. Clicking the Execute button of this plan takes the agent to the device selector to start execution of the plan on a remote device. The agent then starts the execution on all devices listed in the tickets in parallel to save time. They occasionally check the sessions for execution progress and can take care of other tickets in the meantime. Once the virtual technician has successfully finished execution on the device, the human agent validates that logging into Office 365 works again and the issue is fixed. After verifying that virtual technician has successfully executed on all devices and everything works as expected, the agent can close the tickets.
All right. Well, I hope you appreciated the demo. I think this is one of my favorite AI features, and it's always nice to see it live.
Definitely, definitely. It's and all that stuff again, that's real working code, not a mock-up or anything like that. That's in the product, which is awesome to see.
Exactly. I do want to be mindful of time. I know that we have just about 3 minutes left. So let me walk you through quickly two other AI features that we also offer in our product, but answer very different needs. So while the virtual technician that we just saw is really focused on automating and executing tasks, there is an equivalent place for a solution that provides insights and context that are needed to prioritize and address those tasks more effectively. So more on the knowing and less about the doing. We know from our survey, again, when we go back to the results, that about 30% of IT teams feel understaffed and struggle with increasing demands. And sometimes just knowing what to fix is really the problem. And it can be very difficult to do, especially with many teams working with very noisy, fragmented ecosystems, receiving lots of alerts and notifications in a given day. So really making it difficult to prioritize what's next. And this is really where the command center comes in and brings tangible value. So you can think of it as the ultimate starting point for an agent to start their day. It's a central hub that consolidates insights and again, identifies these priorities and provides visibility as well into solution paths for the agent. And so essentially, it makes these observations and helps cut through the noise to guide agents to the most critical task at hand. So just to give you some examples, it could be like flagging an emerging security threat that you really want to make sure that you address immediately, or isolating for a recurring problem that's impacting users. So these types of issues will become much more clear with the command center as like the one-stop shop that you open to begin every day. And in terms of results, I think these are self-explanatory, but we can see how and could lead to quicker issue resolutions and also translate to reduced downtime for end users, but also for systems in general. And I think what makes the command center even more impactful is the fact that it's very low risk and also very accessible in terms of the design. So it's not about like overhauling your whole existing system. It's designed to be like very easy to use. So it can be a nice entry point for those of you that are looking to do the walk, crawl, run approach. This is very easy as a step one to start using, and it's super transparent and also clear for the agent that starts using it. On the next slide, the last piece of information that I wanted to share is an AI-powered knowledge base. So we did mention this earlier in the presentation as well. We know that a big pain point is definitely knowledge management. It can feel like an uphill battle sometimes. It's very time consuming to create, update, and maintain. And this is really where there is a lot of wasted time and opportunity as well for AI to jump in and help address some of these challenges. And so some of the key benefits is definitely the ease with which agents can find information when a knowledge base is AI powered. So to give you some more tangible examples, we can think about advanced search capabilities, as well as being able to surface top related articles so that when an agent has a problem, it becomes much more streamlined to find the most relevant solutions and get to that answer much faster when there's AI that's powering the knowledge base. And another quick example here is that AI also works behind the scene to ensure that the knowledge base always stays current and robust. So it can help like summarize, interpret, but also categorize content, whether that's PDFs, documents, images, or other formats, and also create tags automatically. So again, teams are spending less time manually organizing information and more time actually solving problems. And again, that's another one that's very easy to get started with, very low risk. So definitely another great example to get started for those of you that are just starting to explore AI within your IT operations.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you, Kim, for kind of running through that. I know we have about a minute or two left here, so if there's other questions coming in, please let them. One comment that was to this, Ron, thanks for the question. Is there an auto reply for user ticket submission with a solution based on the information AI gathered? So I think, yeah. So there's one thing within Resolve. We actually have kind of in our help desk area or the portal. End users actually can't open a ticket. They'll put in they will put in their problem. If there is an answer, that'll actually get served up first before they can then progress to open a ticket. So it kind of is an interstitial that if there is a solution for them, it is provided before they even get the ability to go in and open a ticket. And obviously, those are completely optional. You don't necessarily need to take that approach, but anything you tag as kind of user-facing content will push that forward. If you also want to use it for kind of general knowledge, there's the ability to do that as well. So 100% great question. From an email submission, I don't think we're there yet. But I know it's something that the team is looking at. So I think we can open up some more questions. I think we have one other poll. Again, if you're interested in talking to an expert to kind of learn a little bit more about AI functionality we have here at LogMeIn, maybe things that you're using, let us know. We'll have someone follow up with you for this more from the expert side, and maybe demo more of what you saw, show you some of the other stuff, or just generally understand, hey, where's your adoption curve? Want some tips and tricks? Our solution consultant team is phenomenal at helping through that. So please let us know if there's any interest on that. While this is coming through, Danny, are there other questions or anything we'd want to go through?
Yes, absolutely. We have tons of questions that came through. So I'll leave this poll up. I think I can actually go ahead and close. It looks like it's in a good place. Awesome. If you didn't get a chance to let us know that you'd like to connect with us, you can just let us know in the Q&A as well. And we will definitely get your information and get you situated with somebody. So perfect. Okay, tons of questions. Let me see where to start over here. The first one I have are any recommendations on which areas of AI to adopt first?
Yeah, I know we touched on a little bit of this along the way, as Kim was showing. I think that knowledge-based side of it or the scripting, if you want to dip your toes in, are probably the lowest hanging and lowest risk. If you have a tool that's a little bit more mature, and can analyze your data and kind of point you in the right direction. Again, those are, in my take, low risk, high potential reward, especially on the knowledge base and the data insight. The scripting, again, and dipping your toes in, I think the reward there, mileage may vary, to be honest with
Perfect. Low
you.
risk, high reward is always my favorite combo. So, all right. Did the study have any results around Pacific's successes with AI?
Yeah, we actually asked for some open-ended and questions and results. We actually asked both sides, fails, and others. Fails were kind of funny. Most of them were on kind of the standard generative AI side of it. But successes, specifically from the study, a lot of it aligned to where people were seeing positive impact. That being said, we actually have some customers that have been using a lot of the AI Resolve or our virtual technician, for example. And there's one individual that's been able to save, I think he was estimating with the virtual technician playing around with it, an hour a day of just kind of standard operating procedure things. So again, those are some of the results we're seeing coming in, from individuals. The survey itself didn't have any specifics of like, give me an exact practical application that you had where you've seen success. Open-ended, I guess.
Right. Yeah, makes total sense. Okay, how does Resolve and LogMeIn protect customer information with its AI?
Um, yeah, I guess all this talk about data privacy, I should have expected a question like that. So our infrastructure for our large language models, they're not trained on the actual user information and data. We don't pass anything back to third-party AI tools that we use. So everything is self-contained. That's probably the easiest way to say it. We have kind of a full technical guide on how it kind of works. But the key thing with know is that your data is your own. It is not used to inform our larger language models or commingled with kind of others. So that's the key point to it. It's localized and also definitely not shared with any third-party organization.
Perfect. Awesome. I believe you answered this, Chris, so let me know if there is nothing new to this question from what you already gave. Is there a way for an auto reply to the user ticket with a solution based on the AI gathered knowledge base?
Yes, so that was the one that we had answered about the help desk reply. Yep, yep.
Perfect. Okay. Next one I have here. Oh, awesome. Someone thought the demo was totally dope. Thank you, CJ. Um, I have some users that are very anti self-help and need intense handholding. How broken down can the AI articles get to help users like this?
Um, so that is a wonderful question. So I think having more of a detailed demo for you can show you, but I will say this. So a response that's given from the AI does not necessarily have to be one knowledge article or all the knowledge article. What's served back will be contextually relevant to a user or to the question that's asked, or it can join together multiple articles potentially to serve back an answer. So let's say someone comes in and they're having issues resetting a password for one thing, or they're stuck on one step. It won't necessarily push them back everything from a knowledge base. It'll really select, hey, here's that specific answer to the question you have. So it's not the same as, old school, Elasticsearch or Just Fine, where it's like, oh, this is an article, and then maybe it's like, a 5-page article that someone has to find or the specific answer from. No, it can contextually serve back exactly what's needed, and definitely understand the self-help part of it, that some people are anti doing it themselves. And so I think, coupling some of this knowledge information, maybe the virtual technician helping a little, can solve it. And I did see something else that I wanted to attribute to. So we will also, that demo, we'll share that in a link after the fact as well. I know someone said that it got frozen for them or they didn't see it. So 100% we'll share that out. So
Yes, perfect. Okay, do you have a solution for preventative maintenance forecasting using a text file provided of machine module numbers?
um,
And we can always circle back with them if
yeah, I
you.
think we'll have to come back with that. I'm not sure unless Kim, you're familiar. I think it was Kenny had asked this one. I'm trying to look at it. So preventative maintenance forecasting.
No, but we can definitely do
Not
it. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know we're working on stuff from a predictive side of it to kind of understand like, hey, down the road, what might be, how much time or effort might be needed for X, Y, and Z, but we're a little bit ways away from there at this point. But we can circle back with our AI team and find out if this is something in their plans.
Awesome. I think I have just two more questions here, and then I know we have already gone over a little bit, so we can wrap up. Is there any integration for those currently using Jara Service Desk in the cloud?
Yeah, for Jira, we do have a service desk integration for our tool from a remote support side. I'm working on other ways to integrate there as well. We have that. Teams, ServiceNow, Intune, Freshdesk, Zendesk, so a lot of our large providers that are out there. There's also, if you're in Resolve, there's a, if you're doing a trial, you're in the product, there's actually in the integration section a requested integration box. So I encourage you to drop in there. If there's another tool you use, we'll 100% evaluate if we can do it.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Actually, I think that touches on all the questions I had here. So perfect. Again,
There's actually, Danny, I think there was one at the top that I do want to respond to because I think this is an important thing. There was a question asked around, do you think AI is going to take away jobs in the IT sector, stuff like that? Candidly, my take is no, and I know this is a hot topic for a lot of stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think what it will do is a team specifically that we are trying to work with and solve for are teams that are under resourced as it is today. Um, and so really what we hope by our practical AI is getting you back to even and maybe freeing you up a little bit to work on larger strategic things, right? More and more is getting pushed on IT teams today from security, support, supporting other maybe tools that are coming from BYOD or shadow IT and all this stuff, which just kind of boils up and up. So our perspective, and in conversations I've had every day with customers and regularly, right, is that there's just not enough time in the day, and we're hoping to give you back to get you close, be able to take a vacation, not have to work off hours and do stuff like that. So that's my perception. I do know there are some places in larger call center stuff are looking at ways to optimize teams and maybe scale back, but I can specifically say the way we're looking at it and really who we are trying to solve for. I think it's filling the gap because I do think there are a lot of IT professionals that have started to age out and retire, and there haven't been enough to fill the back end of it. A lot of MSPs that are struggling to find good talent, general IT organizations, and so this is a way to potentially offload some of that more manual work and menial work along the way. So yeah.
Thank you for touching on that, Chris. I know that's definitely a hot topic on a lot of people's brains, and your perspective is definitely reassuring, and I 100% agree. So thank you for taking that. And that does officially wrap up our Q&A. If we didn't get a chance to get to your question, don't worry, we have it tracked here, and we'll try to circle back to you to get to your response. Aside from that, thank you so much, and Chris and Kim, I'd love to give you guys a round of applause. I thought that was an amazing session. I'm sure everyone did as well. Awesome. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Carolyn. And thank you guys so much for joining. Hope to see you here next time. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thanks again.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone.
Bye.